Hello friends, looking at current affairs for 20th May. The news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 13. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, GST Council finalizes rates for services. So we have already seen GST Council meet yesterday. It finalized rates for various goods. More than 1,200 goods items were placed in specific taxation categories. So at what percent they would be taxed. 6 categories still remained. We had discussed this yesterday too, that BD cigarettes, gold, agricultural implements, these commodities still have to be decided at what taxation rate they would be taxed under GST. This is still pending, but the second day of GST Council has now decided rates for services. So the service sector, you can see that services which were exempt from tax still remain so, like healthcare and education. So they'll continue to be exempt. Then transport services have been kept under the 5% tax bracket. Non-AC rail travel has been exempted. Even railway freight services will be taxed at 5%. Air travel as such will be taxed at 5% in economy class, but in business class it is at a higher rate. Cab aggregators like Ola, Uber, they would also be coming under the 5% tax bracket. So for transport services, it is 5%. Then for 5-star hotels, gambling, betting, cinema, the highest taxation rate, 28% tax rate would be there for these services. Hotels, lodges below 1,000 rupees tariff per day have been exempted again. At higher the tariff, higher the taxation bracket. Then for financial services, mobile services under 18% taxation rate. And another point which has been highlighted by the Revenue Secretary too is that if the services companies do not pass on this benefit of lower rate of tax to the consumers, then the government can invoke anti-profiteering clause against them. So the next meeting of the GST Council will now take place as such in Delhi in June 3. So from 1st July, GST is to be implemented. And this is the gist of all the taxation rates given here. The next news item is ex-Coal Secretary Gupta convicted for coal allocation fraud. So this is the Delhi CBI court who has convicted former Coal Secretary H.C. Gupta and 5 others. So the companies were benefited because there were irregularities in allocation of coal blocks. So this is the coal block allocation scam which you should know about. The CBI had filed an FIR in this case in 2012, but later in 2014 it filed a closure report, but the Delhi court refused to accept this closure report. It was rejected and the case was revived. Also, the court has observed while framing charges in 2016 that then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was kept in the dark by Coal Secretary Mr. Gupta. So now in this case, there are 10 more coal cases pending against him. So all these, he had also asked for all these cases to be having a joint trial, but the Supreme Court had dismissed this request. So proceedings will go on individually for each of these scams or these coal block allocation cases. So this is the coal block allocation scam. The CAG at that time had revealed that coals had been allocated in an arbitrary manner. The bidding was not used, auction was not used for allocation, and there was huge amount of corruption involved. It resulted in loss to the exchequer to the tune of 1,86,000 crore rupees between the period 2004 to 2009 when this coal block allocation was done. So this was a huge scam which had come forth then. Then the next news item is GSLV too late for changing times. So GSLV, that is the satellite launch vehicle of India, the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle. This had recently launched GSLV F09. We have discussed in the start of May, had launched the South Asia satellite for the SAARC nations excluding Pakistan. So this was a perfect feat achieved by GSLV, 4th success in a row, but then it has taken it more than 25 years to have GSLV in place, and the reason for this being that the cryogenic engine which was required for GSLV, that remained elusive. India could not acquire that cryogenic technology because USA imposed restrictions as such, because this is a dual use technology. It can be used for peaceful purposes like for space and also for defense. So India had to develop its own cryogenic technology. What does cryogenic technology mean also? You can see it is temperatures going down at very low levels. So when cryogenic engine, they use liquid at very low temperatures. You can see minus 253 degrees Celsius. So at such low temperatures, then the space required for the fuel is very constricted. So that gives more space for other payloads which the space launch vehicle carries can be undertaken. Because in a space launch vehicle, the space probes which are carried are taking lesser space and the fuel is taking a lot of space. So if cryogenic technology is available, cryogenic engine is in place, then fuel can be compressed as such, so, and there is more space available for the payloads. So this is the benefit. We developed cryogenic technology indigenously now. So we have become the 6th country to have this technology now. US, Russia, European Space Agency, China and Japan have cryogenic engines. So this is there. So that GSLV has been delayed now, and now with this technology in place to GSLV after F09 being successful with the South Asian satellite 2, what is coming forth is that GSLV no longer may be relevant. Because with this cryogenic technology in place and GSLV functional presently, what it is capable of is carrying satellites in 2000 kg category bracket. But now we have upgraded a satellite technology. So ISRO is developing spacecraft since 2005 of 3000 plus category. These communication satellites are such huge satellites because then there are more transponders which it can carry per spacecraft. So this heavy weight now cannot be uploaded through the GSLV. So we need better space launch vehicles now. So GSLV Mark 3 is also there, but still it may not last for long is what the experts are pointing out now, because GSLV project had been delayed. India's PSLV, ISRO's PSLV rocket has been very successful. It can carry light satellites. So this is polar satellite launch vehicles. It carries light lifts and it is very economical and has many commercial customers as such too. So this you can see is the status of GSLV. So here it is given the satellite launch vehicles, polar satellite launch vehicle capability of carrying satellites of around 1600 kg. GSLV Mark 1 and 2, 2500 kg category, and GSLV Mark 3, 4500 to 5000 kg category. But we, as I said, we are increasing our satellites weights now. The communication satellites with more transponders and therefore more weight are being developed now. So this won't last for long. Next is Kalibanga Museum, famous for Harappan artifacts, reopened. So this is Kalibangan in Hanumangarh district in Rajasthan, which is a Harappan site, Indus Valley civilization site. So this site museum has been reopened now. It has exhibits of Harappan seals, bangles, terracotta objects. So here you can see the various Harappan sites shown. Harappa, Mohenjo-daro are presently in Pakistan. Dholvira, Lothal, these are from Gujarat, Indus Valley civilization sites. Kalibangan from Rajasthan, Ropar from Haryana, Rakhi Ghari, you can say Ropar from Punjab, Rakhi Ghari from Haryana. So these are famous Harappan sites, also called Indus Valley civilization. And Kalibangan was said to be on the banks of river Saraswati, which has dried up now. And it is most famous for the wooden furrow found here and the plowed field. So the plowed field in Kalibangan is the most famous discovery here. So this, even bones of camels have been found from Kalibangan. Fire altars, burials have been found. So there's no drainage system in Kalibangan, so it was not as good, well planned as other Harappan sites. So this also, Kalibangan is famous to have the earliest evidence recorded of earthquake. Earthquake is also said to have contributed to the end of this civilization. Then the next news item is PM calls for evergreen revolution in country. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for evergreen revolution. So this evergreen revolution is actually a term coined by Mr. M.S. Swaminathan. So it was on the release of his book only when this term was also used presently by the PM. So this evergreen revolution has been defined by Mr. M.S. Swaminathan, the Indian scientist, the father of Indian green revolution, because he was the one who introduced and developed high yield varieties of wheat in the country. So this evergreen revolution, what he calls for is that agriculture should be environmentally sustainable, food security should be sustainable, and biodiversity should also be preserved along with it. So this is the evergreen revolution emphasized on. And Prime Minister is also speaking about how India dreams of doubling the incomes of farmers by 2022, when India would celebrate its 75th Independence Day. So this is also a dream of India, and he's talking that now from food security we should move towards nutrition security by using scientific and technological innovations. Also a suggestion put forth is that we can have agricultural clusters on the lines of industrial clusters, where different areas identified with particular crops can be further developed. So this is also a terminology here. Agriculture clusters can be developed. Then the next news item is polluting floodplains to invite rupees 5,000 fine. So this is National Green Tribunal order. It has banned open defecation and dumping of waste on Yamuna floodplains, and it has said that implementation of this Meli se Nirmal Yamuna revitalization project should take place. So this is a petition coming before it too. So now action would be taken against industries and residential areas in the vicinity which are a major source of pollution of Yamuna River. Also, it has been stated that the sewage treatment plant which is there, which is presently at Delhi Gate and Najafgarh here, will take over almost 67% of the pollutants which will be treated here before draining into Yamuna. And further, more sewage treatment plants, around 14, are planned to be constructed, and that would be undertaken as well. So steps are being taken for ensuring that the rivers remain clean and wastewater before draining into them is treated as well. So this is about the National Green Tribunal order in this case. Then the next news item is trace every HIV positive person. So this is Indian Medical Association telling doctors, because in India there are around 21 lakh people with HIV, but only 14 lakh are on the registry. So many are not even registered as such. So what it aims to adopt is 90-90-90 strategy. So this is identify 90% of those who are infected, place 90% of them on treatment, that is antiretroviral therapy treatment, and ensure that 90% have the virus under control, so it's not further transmitted. So this is the 90-90-90 strategy of IMA, which it has adopted. Also, it says that its commitment is to end AIDS by 2030. So this is also a goal under Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations. So this is what India aspires to achieve. Also, antiretroviral therapy treatment is available free of cost since around 2004 in the country, and now IMA says that this should be made available to anyone who tests positive for AIDS, irrespective of the CD count. So CD4 cell counts is generally used on understanding what clinical stage the patient is at, and then antiretroviral therapy is provided for. But now it says that under the new policy, we'll have this ART available to all HIV positive people. So this antiretroviral therapy suppresses the serum viral RNA levels and increases the CD4 cell counts in the patient. So this helps in tackling HIV infection. Also, there's a terminology used, opportunistic infection. So under AIDS, the immune system goes low, and that is why the immunity going low results in other infections developing. So especially TB develops in such patients. So these are called opportunistic infections. So this can also be curbed then, and lives can be saved. The next is survival of newborns. India ranks lower than Somalia. So this is global burden of disease study done. So they have this ranking called HAQ index, healthcare access and quality index. So in this, India has ranked quite low. It has ranked 154 out of 195 countries. Even last year its rank was 143. So it has worsened now. So this is said to be lowest amongst the subcontinent too, amongst various nations, as the headline also says that India ranks lower than Somalia as well. So this is the status here. The index is based on death rates from 32 ailments that could be avoided by timely medical intervention. So India's ranking is going down because of concerns, especially with respect to neonatal deaths, maternal health care, tuberculosis, and even rheumatic heart diseases. So here the infections are there. These mortality rates in this category are quite high, and that is why India's rank has gone low. So this is a matter of concern. This you can see ranking provided here in various categories also. Then the next news item is June 30 not a deadline for Aadhaar. So Supreme Court has refrained from ordering an interim stay on the government notification. So there are around 17 government notifications which are making Aadhaar compulsory after 30 June 2017. So these petitions before the Supreme Court has asked that all these notifications have to be stayed. But the Supreme Court has refrained from ordering such an interim stay as such, and the case is being heard. Even before June 30, it could be heard. And the government is now clarifying that this June 30 deadline is not a hard and fast deadline. It is having inbuilt extensions. Means if you are not able to get Aadhaar before 30 June, then you can at least enroll for Aadhaar and provide that enrollment slip. That would also do. Even you can register your request for enrollment, register your phone number, and still you can be enrolled as a beneficiary. So this has been highlighted by the Attorney General, but the petitioners are arguing that this actually means that Aadhaar is mandatory. Either you enroll or opt for it. Otherwise, you cannot be a beneficiary. So still the Supreme Court is going to hear the matter whether Aadhaar can be made mandatory or not, because that's what petitioners are arguing, that this would result in a surveillance over an entire nation by the government. So let's see what will be the further steps taken. But of course, government is arguing that this has been implemented to eliminate duplicate beneficiaries and streamline the entire process of providing so subsidies and benefits as well. Then the next news item is Kudankulam MOU in final stages. So Kudankulam nuclear power plant, these are being developed by Russia. So Russia has provided the nuclear reactors here. It is located in Kudankulam in Tamil Nadu. So the construction was started from 2002, but it was delayed significantly because of objections from the community there, the local community. The fishermen community were arguing. In 2011 too, there were huge protests because it said that if there is a nuclear disaster, then evacuation of people here would be very difficult. But however, the project went ahead. Unit 1 was synchronized with the Southern Grid 2 in 2013. So Unit 1 and 2 are in place. For Unit 3 and 4, the prices went quite high because then we had our insurance requirements also. So due to operators and suppliers requirements to insure the units, the costs of Unit 3 and 4 were double the cost of Unit 1 and 2. So this have also been put in place. For Unit 5 and 6, still the finalization has not been done. The deadline was of 2016, but it has not been finalized. And present news is about that only. So this is said is in the final stages of finalization of this MOU with Russia. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to meet President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg in June. So whether this MOU would be signed there or not is still not clear. So we'll see, because maybe costing is also a major concern here. So we'll see whether this general framework agreement and credit protocol for Kudankulam nuclear power plant 5 and 6 to be built in Tamil Nadu by, of course, the two entities involved are NPCIL from India and Rosatom of Russia. Whether this would be undertaken or not, we'll see. So these reactors are pressurized water reactors of Russian design. They're called VVER 1000 and they are water cooled, water moderated power reactors. We've discussed them too quite often. The next is RCEP trade ministers to meet. RCEP is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So this is a trade deal being negotiated among 16 countries. The countries involved here are 10 ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Then 6 other nations are India, China, Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. So this is being negotiated. So here you can see. This is a mega regional trade agreement being negotiated. So the states, nations involved here are listed also, you can see here. So negotiations for the trade meeting would take place in Vietnam. So that is the news. But you should know about this RCEP. The terminology should be known. Then next is thinnest hologram ever may lead to 3D world. So scientists have now developed the world's thinnest hologram. So this can be seen without 3D goggles too, and it can be integrated into everyday electronics, smartphones, computers, TV. So what this can benefit is then the size of the screen is irrelevant because these 3D images can pop up and give a lot of space for various information in as such. So this can be used for medical diagnostic to education, data storage, defense, cyber security. So this is shown here. So you can see it says screen size irrelevant, display wealth of data that is neatly fitted on a phone or even a watch as such. So this is shown here as such. This is nano hologram. Then the last news item is ecological concerns over combustible ice. So combustible ice, this is frozen mixture of water and concentrated natural gas. So this technically it is known as methane hydrate. So this is present on the sea, under the sea floor or even under the frozen Arctic and Antarctic ice as such. So this combustible ice has been developed for the first time by commercial development has taken place by both China and Japan. Japan announced it few days back, and now China has also announced that it has used this combustible ice from South China Sea has been successfully extracted from the sea floor of their coastline. So this development, this is having huge potential. You can see here. So this is successfully mined by drilling rig operations, but there are concerns that this, if it is leaked, then it can result in huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions in the environment. So there are concerns also, plus also it may result in other renewable sources like solar and wind power taking a back seat. The technology is not fully developed as such now, but there is a huge reserve. There's a huge potential. You can see here the map shows the locations where this methane hydrate reserves are there, and you can see the volume. So gas from hydrates volume presently is this much, and this commercially exploitable reserves of natural gas, oil and coal are also shown. So this is combustible ice or methane hydrate. So these are the news items. Thank you.